Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. No, I won't give your kid a rabbit for free. After that, took a year, but I sued the unsuable. After that, Karen demands I switch seats with her. And after that, Karen I worked with for months mistakes me as a waitress. Now Karen assured me if we can hit 1,000 likes on this video, she won't mistake anyone else for an employee for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And join as an official channel member today, and I'll give you a special shout out in our next video. No, I won't give your kid a rabbit for free. I breed rabbits. I raise a few different breeds primarily for my dinner table, but also for showing and supporting other breeders and FFA kids needing project livestock. I rarely sell pets and never advertise them as pets. On the rare occasion I get a pet inquiry, I'll sell only a rabbit that's suitable for petdom, friendly, not aggressive, and most importantly, if the inquirer seems like they've researched rabbit ownership and agrees to return the rabbit if for some reason they have to rehome it. I never sell rabbits for holidays or birthdays. I am picky with pet homes, as the life of pet rabbits can go one of two ways. They're loved and kept for the entirety of their lives, or they're bounced around from home to home when the novelty wears off, and eventually end up in a shelter or as a bait animal, or as someone's dinner. Okay, on to the story. We've got entitled Mom. She was loud. We've got her daughter, who was 4 and didn't do anything wrong. We've got my friend/show buddy, and me. I was at a rabbit show with a friend. It was midday, and we had finished 2 of the 3 shows taking place that day. It was lunch break, and friend and I were finishing up our sandwiches and were prepping our show lineup for the next show when this rather large woman, entitled Mom, and her kid, her daughter, they approached our setup, looking at the rabbit I had on my table. Entitled Mom, "What an adorable bunny. Look at that bunny, daughter." Her daughter, "Oh." Me, "Thank you. It was a very cute rabbit, lopped ears and all white with blue eyes." "How much is it?" "Oh, this one isn't for sale. He's one of my show rabbits." Note, I had a chalkboard with the available rabbits listed. Most of the sales that take place at shows are other breeders and FFA youth breeders/showers. At this point, I had no clue if entitled Mom was a breeder or if she was looking for a rabbit appropriate for her kid to show. It was rare that people showed up looking for pets at a show, since most of the availables are rabbits that will be priced for show/breeding and depending on quality can be pricey. I pointed out my chalkboard and told her I could show her whoever she was interested in. She balked at my prices. "Why are these so expensive? Those are absolutely ridiculous prices." My cheapest rabbit was $60. Most expensive was $200. Me, "They are priced off quality. If you want a decent show rabbit, they'll be more than a brood quality rabbit." Entitled Mom, "I just want a pet for my daughter, so you don't need to charge us so much." Me, "Oh, I see. Unfortunately, none of the rabbits I brought are appropriate for a kid's pet." "What? Why?" "The big ones are friendly, but weigh over 12 pounds. They're too big for her to handle easily. The little ones are aggressive. They require an experienced handler. They aren't friendly or cuddly at all and aren't available for a pet home. They're available to other breeders." Entitled Mom, "But they're so little. What harm can they do?" Me, holds a pin in front of one of the small rabbit's noses. It chomps down and tries to pull the pin from my hand. They're bred to be high-strung, so they pose upright and rigidly. The breed is generally not a good pet breed. Entitled Mom, "Fine, we'll take a big one." The 2 I have available are $150 and $200. Both are proven and registered grand champions. Entitled Mom, "I am not paying that much for a rabbit. You are out of your mind." Me, "I am not going to lower their prices. They are worth it and will be a great addition to any breeder's herd. They really are too large for your daughter to safely handle anyway. If they don't feel secure while being held, they will kick out of fear. Such a large rabbit could seriously hurt a kid. There might be other exhibitors selling rabbits more appropriate for your daughter and at a pet price." At that moment, one of my breeds was called over the megaphone. Lunch break was over. I scooped up the rabbit off the table and started to move towards the show tables. Me. Excuse me, I need to put my rabbits up. The judging is starting up. Entitled Mom, ignoring me. I don't understand why there's so much. You should just give daughter a rabbit because she'll love it and give it a good home. Daughter was looking at the rabbits in transport cages, clearly enthralled by all of them. She seemed particularly interested in the small, high-strung ones. She was being good though, not touching and not whining to hold any of them. Me. I won't give away any of my rabbits. Excuse me. Entitled Mom. I'm trying to do business with you. You're going to brush off a paying customer? That's incredibly rude. I can see why no one has bought any of your rabbits. You're being a selfish jerk. Me. Listen, lady, this is a rabbit show, not a pet store. I'm an exhibitor, not an employee. I don't have to sell anything to you. I didn't have to explain to you why none of the rabbits would be a good match for you, and I most certainly don't have to lower any of my prices for someone claiming they're not worth it because they aren't educated enough to know a purebred from a mutt. Go look on Craigslist if you want a $20 rabbit. You won't find that here. I do not deserve to be called names because you think you're entitled to other people's time and property. Now, I need to get my rabbits up. Get out of my way. She muttered some insult which I didn't clearly hear, but I ignored her. I spent the next 15 minutes or so taking rabbits to the table and watched the judging. All of a sudden, I hear a scream coming from the direction of my staging area. I look over to see Entitled Mom flailing about with a tiny rabbit latched onto the squishy part of her hand, between the pointer finger and the thumb. She's screaming, understandably, as rabbit bites hurt, and pulling the rabbit from the hind end. My friend is trying to grab the rabbit and not having any luck since Entitled Mom is flailing about like a fish. I'm mad. I'm also mean when I'm angry, and I'm seeing red. We have clip-on notices on the transport cages that clearly say, "Do not touch," and "I bite." This moron went into my cages while I wasn't looking and tried to remove one of my rabbits. I run to her, grab her by the wrist, and scream at her to hold still, otherwise she'll never get the rabbit off. She's obviously in pain. Daughter is crying from the commotion, and friend is looking pale and wide-eyed at the whole ordeal. The rabbit is breathing hard, bleeding from his rear foot and not letting go. I do the only thing I could think of and use my pin to pry him off. She screams and tries to jerk away, which makes me snarl a very angry, "Hold still." Entitled Mom. You're hurting me. Me. Do you want him off or not? I'm trying to help you. I told you they were aggressive. You did not have permission to touch any of my rabbits. Off pops the rabbit, wild-eyed and panicked. Back into his carrier he goes. He now looks very smug. Entitled Mom. Ah! She's bleeding everywhere. I'm going to sue you. Your rabbit attacked me. Me. I told your stupid butt that they were aggressive. You had no right to touch any of my rabbits. There's a sign on his cage that says he bites. Can you not read? Friend on phone with police. Yes, I'd like to report an attempted theft and need someone here ASAP. Entitled Mom. Yes, get the cops here. Your rabbit assaulted me. You brought a rabid rabbit to a place where there are kids. It could have hurt my daughter. Me. Only if she had broken into my cages like you did. What kind of example are you setting for your kid? Entitled Mom. Forget you. At that point, the show secretary leads Entitled Mom and daughter off for some first aid, and I check over my rabbit. She had thrashed him around so hard that all 4 toenails on both hind feet had been broken off. According to friend, the Entitled Mom refused to leave after I took my rabbits up to be judged, and had been grilling friend about the rabbits and the prices. When another of our breeds was called up, friend had started to bring those rabbits up. In about 20 seconds of being unobserved by one of us, Entitled Mom thought it would be a good idea to steal one of the small rabbits. Our neighbor had watched her open the cage and grab the rabbit. Fortunately, she picked one of the meanest ones we have, and being an uneducated fool, picked him up by grabbing him by the chest and back, right in bite range. The cops showed up and took our statement and then her statement. I showed them my rabbit and informed them I wanted to press charges for damaged property. Since rabbits qualify as livestock in my state, damage of property was all I could press for. Animal control was also called, and she was cited and charged with animal endangerment. Unfortunately, the wounded rabbit's toenails grew in white, so he can no longer be shown and his value dropped. She ended up paying me for the full cost of the rabbit and has a ban from all rabbit shows with the club that put that particular show on. She undoubtedly has a nasty scar to show off as well. Would you ever like to have a pet rabbit, or would you prefer something else? Please leave a comment letting me know. Next we've got, took a year, but I sued the unsuable. So, after a year-long battle, this finally came to a close. A little backstory. I bought a house about 5 years ago, and in 3 years, it flooded 3 times. It never flooded in the 40 years before. Thanks climate change. Finally, after the 3rd flood, my wife and I were financially able to move out and sell the house for a loss. We search around and find our dream house, or so we thought. After living in the new house for about 6 months, we noticed something very peculiar. Whenever it would rain hard, the bathtub would backfill with sewage and the toilets wouldn't flush. So we called a plumber. The plumbers were awesome and told us that the sewer lines had broken between the house and the city sewer line, and while we could try and spot fix, we would probably need to replace the entire line. Ouch. Having just dumped a bunch of cash on a new house and taking a loss on the old house, we said to try and keep it as cheap as possible. They dug up where the line was broken. Broken is an understatement. The line had all but dissolved. We were going to have to replace the whole line, about $5,000. Not the best time, but okay, let's do it. Once they exposed the line the best they could, I got a call from the plumbers. The line has broken up so badly, they cannot find where the residential line ties into the city line, or tap. Now the homeowner is responsible for the residential line, but the city is responsible for the tap and the main line. I asked the plumber what is needed. He says we need to get the city plans and dig to uncover the tap. More digging equals more money. At this point, it's been 2 weeks, and I just want to use my own bathroom and take a shower. Okay, dig the hole. They dig a 4x4x10 hole and find nothing. We double-check the city's plans, and they are right on where the plans say the tap is. Now we have to deal with the city. We call 311 as directed, and after sitting on hold for 3 hours, a city official sends us the same plans with the location where we dug. We call back and say we already dug there and there is no tap. Getting nowhere with the city, my wife finally goes down to City Hall, and after spending a vacation day hanging around waiting for someone, she finally gets in to meet with an official. Let's call him Richard. Richard prints off the same plans we have already been given and says we need to dig where it's marked. My wife takes out her phone and says, "Look, it's not there." At this point, he mutters to himself and takes out a pen and draws on the plans, marking the actual location. It shows the residential line dog-legging from the original drawings and is about 10 feet west of the initial location. It was apparent that he doesn't want to waste his valuable, cushy government job time on my wife. It was pretty obvious he just made something up to get her out of his office. Plumbers come out, dig a second 4x4x10 hole, read more money, and surprise, surprise, the tap isn't there either. Fun. Back to City Hall and another vacation day wasted waiting for Richard. At this point, we don't want another hand-drawn map. Someone from the city needs to come out and mark where this tap is. They come out, and I burn a vacation day to wait around for them. To their credit, they got down in the sewer, did some digging around, and mark a new spot between the 2 big holes. Finally, a real location. Plumbers come out and dig a 3rd hole, and if you think they actually found the tap, then you would be mistaken. At this point, the entire backyard is destroyed. Piles of dirt everywhere. The lawn is dead, the trees are dead, it's ruined. Our beautiful new house's backyard is literally crap. Back down to Richard's office. Another vacation day burned and we are livid. We remain calm, but insist that we must have not been tied into the city's main line. There was no tap. Now you might be thinking, how did we not know? 6 months of sewage just piled up in your backyard? In the backyard, there is a large dirt mound that has been turned into a nicely landscaped forest. Lots of room to absorb the sewage that only 2 people would produce. But if it rained hard, the dirt was saturated and would backfill the bathtub and the toilets wouldn't flush. Richard doesn't accept responsibility, but does send out the contractor who did all the work for taps in my area. The contractor comes out, and I get the full second story. 2 years prior, while the previous owner was doing improvements and not living in the house, the main line of sewer was replaced. Basically, they slide the new tubing into the old tubing underground and then go in and install new taps for each house. Since no one was living in the house, they couldn't get into the backyard and told the city they did not service our house. I am furious. It's been 3 months, over $20,000, and all the wasted time and vacation just because Richard was too lazy to do his job and make one call to the contractor to sort it out. Now, remember how my first house flooded 3 times? I learned my lesson dealing with people, and once we knew we had to talk to the city, we recorded everything. Every phone call, every email. I videoed the contractor and his explanation. Everything, and all obtained legally. In my state, you have to have both people's consent to be recorded. He installs a tap, and I take the first shower at my house in 3 months. I am ready to act. I go down once again to Richard's office. I show him everything and want to file a claim. I agree to cover the cost of the residential line, as that is my responsibility. However, I want the city to reimburse the costs to dig the unnecessary holes. I think I have a good case. Pursuant to our city, we had to file a claim before starting any work and provide 3 estimates in writing to file a claim. Since none of that was done and could not be done after the fact, Richard denied the claim right there. Left without words, I walk away completely defeated. I perk up on the way home after calling my wife and being reminded that I have some lawyer friends. Surely one of them could help or know someone who can. Unbeknownst to me, my state has something called sovereign immunity. Basically, you can try and sue the city or state, but it will be thrown out immediately, and Richard knows this. No credible lawyer will help me pursue this case because they know I would just be wasting my money. I am pretty much out of luck. After months of calling around to try and find someone to help, I have resigned myself to defeat. Almost a year goes by. The loans I took out are about to start coming due, and I have no idea how I am going to pay for it. All communication with Richard and his office is blocked. I have also tried his boss and crickets. I tried going back down there, but Richard refused to meet with me. I finally reach out to my council member in a last-ditch effort. I include a synopsis along with all the evidence I have. I didn't expect much. 1 hour after hitting send, my phone rings. It is my council member, and she is livid about how we were treated. She has a meeting scheduled with the head of public works for later that week. She doesn't promise anything, but says she is going to fight for me until they kick her out of the building. After the meeting, she calls me on her way back to the office. The head of public works has accepted full responsibility. She wants receipts for everything. The plumber, pay stub showing the vacation we took, phone logs from the time we spent on hold, the quote from the landscaper to fix the backyard, all of it. She has them all in her inbox by the time she makes it back to the office. That was about 3 weeks ago. Yesterday, I met with my council member at her office. Me, thank you so much. My wife and I cannot repay you for all you have done. Her, it was my pleasure. We chit-chat for a bit. Her, here is a check for what you are owed. Me, this is so great. We can pay off the loan and finally get someone to fix our yard. Wait, this is much more than we need. Her, you forgot to include emotional distress. I added it in for you. Wink. Oh, and if you ever have any issues, you won't have to worry about dealing with Richard. He no longer works there. Just come to me. I have become good friends with the head of public works. Me, oh my God, you are literally the best person I know. If there is anything I can do. Her, elections are in the fall. Maybe you could turn out and vote. So I went home, paid off everything, and the landscapers are coming out next week. Oh, and I am volunteering on her re-election campaign. Thanks for reading. Next we've got, Karen demands I switch seats with her. I used to fly a lot for work, living out of a suitcase 35 or so weeks a year. It was exhausting, but I met a ton of great people. This story is about one who wasn't. A lot of people think the big benefits of flying a lot is the miles, and miles are great, but when you fly often enough, the real benefit is the status program. The airline I flew most often had a program where they would give you free upgrades to first class. The airline would sell as many first-class seats as they could, and if there were any unsold, would give them away to the most frequent flyers. Often I'd get the upgrade a day or two in advance, but sometimes I would be on standby for the upgrade, especially for US cross-country flights, and have to wait until shortly before boarding. So I'd have a coach seat, and if something opened up, they'd call me shortly before boarding and upgrade me, which is what happened this time. The gate agent called me up with a smile and says, "Good news, OP. Looks like we can upgrade you." We had a pleasant conversation. I thanked her and took my seat. Unbeknownst to me, we weren't the only two people paying attention to that exchange. Boarding begins, and I settle into my window seat. Nobody sits next to me, and with first-class boarding seat, that probably means nobody is sitting there. Perfect. I can spread out a bit while I work. About 10 minutes go by when a woman with her kid in tow stops by me. She says, "Excuse me," and gestures at the folder I had put on the aisle seat next to me. I apologize and pick up my folder, and as her son sits down, she says, "You need to change seats with me." Poor manners, but whatever. Switching seats on a plane happens all the time. I figure she and her kid were separated for whatever reason. It happens a lot with upgrades, and obviously want to sit together. No problem. Me. "Oh, okay. Where's your seat?" She hands me her boarding pass, 26F or something. Assuming she had gotten upgraded, but handed me the wrong boarding pass, I said, "This is your coach seat. Where are you sitting up here?" "There," she says, pointing to my seat. Me. "No, I mean, what is your assigned first-class seat?" Her. "I am going to sit with my son." Me. "No problem. What is your first-class seat and I'll move." Entitled Mom. "Look, there was a mistake in upgrades. We have these seats." I start to talk again and she snaps. "Why are you being such a jerk?" This gets the attention of the flight attendants. I didn't know if Reddit has a flight attendant horror story subreddit, but it should, precisely for people like this. The flight attendant comes over. Flight attendant. "Is there a problem?" "Yes, he won't change seats with me." "Sir?" she says with a puzzled look on her face. "I will, but I'd rather not sit in 26F after I've already been upgraded." Flight attendant. "Okay, can I see everyone's boarding passes?" Mine reads 5A, hers 26F, and her son's 26E. Flight attendant. "Ma'am, you and your son are in row 26. This is a long flight, and we've been up for 2 hours already. You guys give away these seats. You should give them to us. Those seats aren't big enough for normal people." I resisted the urge to ask what basis she had for considering herself normal, and noticed that a line had formed in the aisle because nobody could squeeze by her to get their seats. Flight attendant. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but you'll need to sit in your assigned seats." "No, we want an upgrade. I fly with you every year." Flight attendant. "And we appreciate your loyalty, ma'am, but we're boarding and we need everyone to take their assigned seats." At this point, some folks in the aisle began complaining and telling her to take her seat. Entitled Mom. "Look at him and how he's dressed." I was in jeans and a sweatshirt, my usual travel attire. "He doesn't belong here." Just then, a voice from the aisle shouted, "You don't either, lady. Take your seat." The flight attendant fought a smile while I just burst out laughing, which only enraged Entitled Mom further. Somewhere during all of this, the other flight attendant called into the flight deck, and a flight deck officer emerged, squeezing by passengers. Entitled Mom. "We want our free upgrade." Officer to flight attendant. "What seems to be the problem?" Entitled Mom interrupts. "He won't switch seats with me." Flight attendant. "This passenger and her son won't sit in their assigned seats, 26E and 26F. Officer. "Ma'am, you need to take your seats." Entitled Mom. "No, we want our free upgrade." Officer. "Ma'am, if you want to reach the destination, you need to be in your seats right now, because interfering with a flight crew means the police get involved, and nobody wants that, do they?" She yanks her son out of the seat and storms back, to applause from the rest of the passengers. The guy sitting on the other side of the aisle turns to flight attendant and officer and says, "Whatever they pay you guys, it isn't enough." The rest of the flight was quiet and uneventful. While I was off the plane long before her, we crossed paths at baggage claim. She called me a jerk under her breath, and in one of my less than proud moments, I turned to her kid and said, "Don't be like mommy." Would you have switched seats with Karen or just told her to buzz off? Please leave a comment letting me know. Next we've got Karen I worked with for months mistakes me for a waitress. We were in a musical together. I was backstage crew, she was an actress. I was the person who maneuvered the set for all the scene changes, made sure everyone had their props, painted the set, and did many other things. Long story short, I was pretty much everywhere and interacted on the set of that show to make sure the show ran smoothly. Closing night happens, the show is over, and the entire cast was going to a local restaurant to celebrate. I, of course, went too, and sat at a table with my backstage pals. One thing about doing tech in theater is that you have to wear all black for the shows so that the audience doesn't see you at all. So we're all at this restaurant and most of us have already eaten. We're all just talking now, and I'm standing next to a table talking with one of my friends when I hear someone behind me say, "Excuse me?" I didn't know she was talking to me and continued my conversation. She says it again and rather aggressively taps my arm. I turn around and before I can even say anything, she goes, "Can I get some more of these?" and gestures towards her empty plate. Confused, I go, what? "The wings. I want another plate of them." Now, I have spoken with this woman almost every day for months now. Put her props in place, moved the set for her scene, all that. I assumed she knew who I was. "Why are you asking me?" She goes, "Well, you work here, don't you?" I shake my head, but she doesn't believe me. "Well, you're dressed like you work here, and you were just standing at that table and taking their order. Clearly you work here." I apologize, tell her that I in fact do not work there and that I'm a crew member for their show. Prompt her with some conversations we've had, and eventually she realizes that she is in the wrong. She apologizes and turns away, and that was the end of it. Bizarre. And shoutouts to our re-generals of the day, Yarncraft, John Hoffman, Mr. Swift, and Lazy Potato. Become tomorrow's re-generals by leaving as many re's as you can in the comments below, and please listen to my playlist every night when you go to sleep.